Now from KWWL, this is the Steel Report.
And welcome to this week's edition of the Steel Report. Have a great show for you today. As you can see, I have two special guests, including UNI Athletic Director David Harris. And David, can you believe it? Almost 6 years now as the athletic director at the University of Northern Iowa. We're going to talk a lot of the great things going on, including some fantastic new facilities being built. And of course, KWWL longtime sports director Rick Coleman joins us as well. Rick, I'll let you get started here because there are a ton of things going on at UNI and it's all positive. Yeah.
It is all positive, especially when you consider what the University of Northern Iowa as well as other athletic departments across the country have gone through. But still, UNI is pushing forward with some amazing upcoming projects to certainly benefit the UNI football program, but other athletics on campus.
Certainly for us, I think you want to be in a situation where you come out of the pandemic and you're in a position to be stronger. Yeah. And not everybody is able to do that, but fortunately through the generosity of our donors and the strength of our staff and the work that they've done, we're in a position that as we come out of COVID and we look at what tomorrow is going to look like, we were able to do some work during that time period to raise some funds to put us in the position to be able to have these projects go forward. So we're very excited about our future and we're excited as these projects get started.
And I was thinking, I mean, you were trying to just stay afloat, I mean, for the most part during the pandemic, right, because you didn't have fans in the stand, you didn't have that kind of revenue coming in, but still you had your sights set on the future as well, knowing that you would have to have these projects in hand to help to enhance those programs.
Certainly for us, we're always looking at the projects and the resources that we need to be able to have success. And in this position, you're always having to look forward 3 years, 5 years, 7 years to what's going to be needed in the future. So from our standpoint, you have the day-to-day grind, so to speak, of working through all the things that the pandemic threw at you and not having crowds and having the testing and the masking and the distancing and doing contact tracing and everything that went with COVID-19. But you also had to have your eye on what comes next because you knew at some point this was going to be over with. Although some days it felt like it was never going to end. You knew that at some point it was ultimately going to be over, and what position would your department be in when you came out the other side of this? And so we're fortunate that a lot of hard work paid off for us.
Let's talk a little bit about football coming up, and are you planning on having full capacity in the UNI Dome?
We are, that's our plan, and we're excited. I think if you watch sports, if you enjoy sports on TV, you know that sports are better when you have that crowd, when you have that background, when you have your crowd as kind of your 12th man from a football standpoint. And so for us, we are planning to have 100% capacity with football and really all of our sports throughout the season. So we're really excited to welcome our fans back and to really create an excitement that I think our fans not only appreciate, but our student athletes certainly appreciate. And we know that our coaches feel like it can be an advantage for us. So I think that's important for anyone, but we have such a rich history of having great fan support and having people come and pack the dome. We want to recreate that here this fall.
Any hiccups where, I mean, you know, not everyone's tested, you know, fans that are coming to the games. I mean, how will you handle that aspect?
That'll be part of the discussions that we have as we go throughout the summer, talking with the appropriate campus officials and talking with President Nook, and make sure that we make a decision that can keep everybody safe.
Well, let's talk about those exciting projects, because I was kind of surprised that we were able to get this done at the University of Northern Iowa, basically with the environment we were dealing with financially and everything else going on with the pandemic. But you pushed forward, and there were some great donors out there that helped.
Here's the man, of course, that everybody knows. He's been gone, unfortunately, since 2015, but Van G. Miller, of course, one of the best philanthropists that I know in this area. He was a tremendous person. He loved UNI. He loved a lot of things, and Van's has a great foundation. It's called the Van G. Miller Family Charitable Foundation, and the meeting room, David, is going to be named in honor of Van.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, I never had an opportunity to meet Van, but certainly have heard tremendous things about him and his impact on the community as well as on our campus and in the athletics department. And so it was fitting to have this be named after him and be named after the family. They contributed the lead gift for us, and it meets such a need within our football program. Because ultimately our program right now has not had a team meeting room. They have not had a place to be able to meet. And so they've used areas like classrooms or our media room to be able to have their team meetings. And so to now have that facility be located within the Dome is just fantastic for them. The room will be set up as a team meeting room, but it'll have a divider so you can have offense on one side, defense on the other side. We'll be able to use it as I guess, 2 suites on game day, so that'll help us from a revenue generation standpoint. But really, it's being built to service our student athletes, our football student athletes, who need and deserve a place to be able to come together and watch film, to be able to have conversations, to be able to meet with the coaches. And construction has begun, as Ron mentioned. We'll have the webcam so that for those who want to watch the construction happen every day, they can get on there as much as they want to be able to make that happen. And we're looking forward to that being open here in the fall. We don't have an exact date of completion, but it will be done in the fall. So we're really excited. If you go up to our offices right now, it's a construction zone. So actually many of us are working remotely right now to avoid the noise. But every once in a while, I'll go to the office and just try to peek and see what's happening, going on. It feels like a kid at Christmas kind of waiting for that present to be open. So we're super excited about this. And thanks to the families that really made this possible, as well as the Vanjie Miller family. But I think about True North and Dwayne Smith and what they were willing to do to be able to help us, as well as Donna and Eldred Harmon. The various, or the 2 meeting rooms, the offensive side and the defensive side, will be named after them respectively.
Fantastic.
And so whenever you do something like this, you know it's because great people are standing behind you. And that certainly is the case here.
And I know the UNI Dome is a multi-purpose facility. It serves the needs of not only the football program, but also other athletic programs on campus. And so this also alleviates some of the issues regarding who's going to use it at what time, and speak to that.
Certainly for us, the Dome gets a ton of use. And so that kind of segues into the other project for us with football, which is our outdoor football turf, our outdoor facility, where we're putting in a new turf field so that we can have a place to be able to go year round. So to your point, when we're having a concert, or when we're having some type of monster truck show, or we're having a sports show or a boat show, or all the many things that happen in the Dome, or when other sports need to be able to use it. We have softball tournaments and we have track meets and all the things that happen in the Dome. Football can get displaced. And right now, that's fine when it's the summer, that's fine when it's the fall, but when it gets to the winter and the spring and snow is on the ground or the field is not in great condition, they don't have the opportunity to be able to go outside and practice. And so we wanted to have a location where they can go and know they would have a great field to be able to practice on. We'd be able to have lights so that they'd have the opportunity to be able to practice at any time of the year, regardless of how quickly it got dark. And so thanks to Doug and Ann Gotchke and the donation that they made of $2 million, then we're able to make that a reality as well. And that'll be finished here in the fall as well. So 2 exciting projects. We expect them both to be done here in the fall.
Well, speak to the importance of those donors. I mean, South Dakota, there isn't a University of Iowa or Iowa State where they're fighting for Board of Regent dollars. But here, private donors are very important to the University of Northern Iowa's not only success, but also survival at times.
Absolutely, in 2 different ways. One is when we talk about projects like this, where you're doing major gifts and fundraising to be able to get projects done, that's critical. But then on a day-to-day basis, when you look at the Panther Scholarship Club and the donations that they make, I've always said that that's the lifeblood of our department, the annual giving that happens to support scholarships. And so for us, donors, whether they're given to the annual fund or they're given to major gifts, they are absolutely critical to us being able to achieve our goals.
And the Gotchkes, of course, are huge fans of UNI, and particularly of head coach Mark Farley. You just gave him, or you have a contract extension yourself to 2025. You just gave Coach Farley a well-deserved extension as well.
It is a well-deserved extension, and he's done a great job for a number of years, and he was an integral part of helping us with our fundraising for these projects. So we're excited to continue the football program under his leadership.
So you have to have people with money that like you as well.
Yes, absolutely. That's very important.
It doesn't hurt any, does it?
It does not hurt
It does
at all.
not hurt a bit. Okay, we have to take a short break here, unfortunately, for just a couple of minutes. But all of our shows, as you know, are online on kwwl.com. We'll come back and talk more about Panther Athletics at the University of Northern Iowa with David Harris in just a moment. And welcome back to this week's edition of the Steel Report with UNI Athletic Director David Harris and KWWL Sports Director Rick Coleman. And David, one of the things I wanted to talk about in this particular segment, the UNI Fight Initiative supporting UNI athletics through this tough COVID situation.
Critical for us this year as we went through a year where we had a number of revenue reductions, a time period where you're not able to have fans. You're not able to have the NCAA and Missouri Valley Conference distributions the way that you have been in the past. Your university support is cut. And so you find yourself in a position where it's difficult to make ends meet. And so we did a number of things and made a number of reductions, including asking our staff to reduce their salaries, which is always challenging because during a pandemic, everyone is concerned about their money, everyone's concerned about their employment. And then ultimately to have reductions between 5% and 12.5%, depending on what your salary was a significant sacrifice to our staff members. Mm-hmm. And so we knew we couldn't necessarily cut our way to having a balanced budget for the year. We had to do something on the revenue side. And that's where the UNI Fight Initiative became important for us, because it was asking our donors to go above and beyond what they've done in the past. Many of them give to the Panther Scholarship Club. They give to our major facilities. They're great donors and great supporters for the department. And so because of the impact of COVID, we said, hey, we're asking you for a one-time gift to be able to help the operations of the athletics department, try to minimize having to lay people off, trying to minimize the cuts and the reductions that ultimately needed to be made. And they've really stepped up in a significant way. As we sit here today, we're at about $750,000 raised through the UNI Fight Initiative, which is just critical to be able to help us as we close out the year. So for those who are interested in continuing to help us, we have until June 30th, the Fight Initiative, the campaign will go until that time period. When you look at $750,000, that's certainly an amazing amount of money, but when you look at revenue reductions that we took, that was about $2.8 million. And so we had to get part of that $2.8 million made up with some expenses, but we also need as much revenue as we could get to be able to help us as we continue our operation. So the Fight Initiative was a great tool and just another show of support by our donors during a challenging time.
Now let's show this screen shot right now here. The revenue reductions were necessary at $2.8 million, as you mentioned, David, and you did that because you lost NCAA distributions, you lost your football away game guarantee,
Right.
the ticket concession sales, and the university support and student fees. Then you made reductions in the salaries. You actually stopped spending. The operating budget had big cuts, and then no contract incentives for anybody. So you took some those were amazing measures you had to take. Yeah.
Right, and our coaches did a great job of just, being selfless and saying, hey, we're willing to give up our incentives as a way to be able to support what's happening in the department, as well as taking those reductions in their salaries. So I can't say enough about our staff and their willingness to all pull together. And I think that's one of the things that makes UNI Athletics special, is that we get it. We understand what it means to pull together through challenging times. And that's one of the reasons why I talked about earlier, coming out of the pandemic stronger. I think one of the ways we come out stronger is just from a morale standpoint, in that we saw that we could pull together through a challenging time, get stronger, get things done, come out the other end, and have a department that people can still be proud of.
And you didn't cut programs.
Yeah.
That was a big key. I mean, through this very difficult time, some universities were forced to.
Yeah, and I think that's part of one of the things that I feel is really significant through this past year. People understood that could be something that would happen with us, that you looked around and you saw in the universities and other athletics departments cutting sports, and we didn't want to be in that situation. You know that taking away opportunities from your student athletes is the last thing you want to do as an athletics director. And so because of the sacrifices that were made across the board, within our department. We were able to avoid doing that this year, and we're certainly proud of that.
Well, think about a school like Stanford almost cut all those sports. I mean, if Stanford University is thinking about cutting sports, just think about the impact.
And they had a lot of wealthy alumni.
Yeah,
I was going to say, we'll take some of that Stanford money if we can get it.
Rick, how many times have we talked about this? What an advantage Iowa and Iowa State, though, have having their conference television networks. And that's something that you and I, you don't get that kind of revenue at all.
Certainly, we don't. Yeah. We don't have those types of contracts, so we have to do it a little bit differently. It's one of the things that makes us unique within the state. We compete against Iowa and Iowa State, but we're not funded in the same way. We don't have the TV contracts, and so it takes support of our great donors. It takes attendance, people coming to our games. It takes people supporting our facilities and just trying to be successful and really generate excitement about what it is that we're doing. That's a big part of the key. And the Panther Scholarship Club, people wanting to support student athletes directly, that's how we generate what's needed to be able to have success. So we continue to compete with Iowa and Iowa State, and they have the big guns financially, but we seem to do pretty well every time we have a chance to go up and compete against them.
I always say you get the most bang for your buck in terms of University of Northern Iowa.
I think so, and a big part of that is our coaches are great. We have great coaches and great student athletes, and that's what you want. When you look at our sports and the number of years that they've been here, they just do a phenomenal job, and that's why we want to continue to hold on to them and give them the resources that they need.
David, Spider Coleman was quite a hurdler in his day.
Way fast.
But that brings us to the outdoor track facility at UNI. It's going to be fantastic and much needed, of course. I mean, you have a great facility already, but this is a great improvement. Yeah.
It is, and so we're actively fundraising for that right now. We've raised close to about $500,000. The project is $1.4 million. And so we want to make this happen. This is, when you look at what we've been able to do with outdoor track and field, Coach Paulson and his staff have just done a great job. They've now won 3 Missouri Valley Conference championships in a row on the outdoor side, and then 2 on the indoor side. So combine that with the women's cross country championship, and they've won 6 championships in the past 5 years. So when you have a program like that, this is something that has to get done. We have to find a way to be able to support them and make sure that they can have the kind of surface that they need to be able to compete. So we're looking to be able to do that project
let me
next
ask
year.
this. I know in the past there have been a couple of outdoor championships and track meets held at that facility. Will there be possibly a future opportunity for that?
Yeah, that's why we're doing this, because right now, based on the condition of the track, we're not able to have competitions. We're not able to have track meets. We're not able to have the Missouri Valley Conference Championship. We've been scheduled to host it a couple of times in the past few years, and we've had to pass because we hadn't been able to get the track done yet. So once we're able to get the track done, we'll be back in the rotation to be able to host the conference championship on an annual basis. So for those who are listening to this and watching and have an affinity with track and field, we would certainly appreciate their support in getting this done and getting the donations necessary to make it happen.
So you have more than 1,800 members of the Panther Scholarship Club, and you raise a lot of money that way. How can people get involved in that if they want to?
Sure. We are looking for donations all the time. You can go to our website. You can call the Panther Scholarship Club office in order to be able to make a donation. Donations can start as small as $50 and go all the way up through $25,000. It's an annual fund. As I said, it supports scholarships for our student athletes, and it's really a critical part of our success. So anytime anyone is interested, they can go to unipanthers.com. They can find information there, or they can contact us directly.
All right, one more break, and we'll wrap things up here on this week's edition of the Steel Report with Rick Coleman and David Harris in just a moment. Online also on kwwl.com. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Steel Report for this week, our third and final segment with University of Northern Iowa Athletic Director David Harris and KWWL Sports Director Rick Coleman. David, in 1975, I stood in the middle of the football field at the UNI Dome, which wasn't done yet, and did what we call a stand-up for our business, talking about how this is going to be a fantastic facility. It has been, but now it's time for a renovation, isn't it?
It is a fantastic facility, and it has been for the last 45 years or so. And we are going to be celebrating the anniversary in 2026. And so we want it to be a fantastic next 50 years for the facility as well. And so in order for that to happen, we know we have to do some renovations. We know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done to update and modernize the facility. And so starting this summer, we're beginning to raise funds for the UNI Dome. We have a renovation in mind that we're going to be introducing here publicly as we go throughout the year. But we'll be somewhere around $50 million that we'll be looking to raise to be able to renovate the dome. And we have a number of things that we want to do, including having a new west main entrance, widening the concourse, being able to add a number of new restrooms, being able to replace the seating. One of the questions I always get is, what's up with the red and yellow and blue seating? And I never have a real good answer for it, so we're just going to change that and make it all purple. And so we're going to have wider seats, we're going to have wider aisles, we're going to have handrails, all purple seats. We're going to expand our suite area and give us some more suites there on the west side, as well as replacing the indoor track and getting some new graphics and a new sound system within the facility as well. So we have a lot of work that we want to do, but it's all necessary, and we feel like it's going to enhance the experience of the fans that come to the games.
16,600 capacity right now. Will that change at all?
That will go down some between the construction of the team meeting room and having wider seats and wider aisles. It'll take us down to just under 14,000.
You know, we want to give some kudos to the UNI softball team. They just wrapped up a tremendous season here.
They did a great job, and I can't say enough about Coach Jacobs and his staff. I mean, the coaching staff of the year, and just going to the NCAA tournament and playing as well as they did and having a fantastic year, winning over 30 games, having the pitcher of the year and the newcomer of the year and the player of the year. Just a great year by our softball program, and Coach Jacobs continues year in and year out to just do a great job of building that program, sustaining the program, and having great success. And so we certainly look forward to the future and getting back to the tournament again sometime in the near future. The last time we were there, I believe it was in 2013, this was our first at-large berth. But we don't believe it'll be our last.
And the track and field team doing really well right now in regionals and had a great spring, winning the Missouri Valley Conference Outdoor Track and Field Championship, the men.
Yeah, as I mentioned, Coach Paulson does a great job, and he has a great staff working with him, working with our student athletes. And maybe it's too soon to call it a dynasty, but I think we have a dynasty that's really coming into play. And Coach Paulson is probably watching this, and he's going to be upset with me for saying that. But I think it's fair based on the success that we're having and what he continues to bring to the table. And the phenomenal student athletes that he's bringing in and the way that they perform year in and year out, I can't say enough about them.
David, how do you motivate these coaches? Well, obviously, contract extensions help, but they know it's a great university. They have amazing athletes, student athletes. I think that's really the key, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and fortunately, because they are professional and because they're driven and they're competitive, there's not a lot of motivation that's needed from me. They look to me to provide resources and to provide opportunities and to provide support, but I don't have to go in and give great pep talks. I think they understand what's important. They are highly motivated to have success. And they do a great job, and they motivate our student athletes to be their best. And I think many times at UNI, we're not necessarily getting the student athletes that come in 5-star, 4-star, whatever the rating is. But as Coach Frawley often says, when they graduate, they're 5-star because of the way that they've been developed. And I think that's due to the tremendous job that our coaches do.
Especially what you've gone through with, I mean, the pandemic. I know you've had an open dialogue constantly. I mean, even before the pandemic, you've had an open dialogue with your coaches about what they need to be successful with their programs, and I know that's very important. You're kind of a coach's athletic director. They can go to you when they need to.
I certainly hope so, and I want to keep those lines of communication open and have them understand that I'm here to support them if they need something, if there's something I can do to help. And sometimes I'm not able to help. Sometimes, quite honestly, they're coming for something that we can't provide for one reason or another. But I think because we're willing to listen and we're willing to do everything that we possibly can do, And when there becomes an opportunity to be able to make something happen, we want to act on that. Then I hope that they appreciate the fact that we're working hard to make their jobs a little bit easier.
David Harris, thank you very much. UNI Athletic Director. Go to the Panther website, check out all the fantastic improvements that are taking place, and check out all the athletic teams, because you've got some good ones. And really, we really appreciate the coaches, what they do, and their longevity and what they mean to our community beyond UNI even. So David, thanks a lot. Rick, as always, great to have you on the show. We'll see you back here next week. Thanks for watching.